Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another live stream on Survive Podcast. And today I'm joined by Dr. Dennis MacDonald. And today we're going to be discussing uh, Ammon Hillman's claims regarding Mark 14 and the secret gospel of Mark. And this has to do with the young naked man, uh, in which he claims that is not actually a young man, but he claims it's actually a child. And we're going to be playing some clips and responding to that today. So first off, Dennis, thank you for joining me today.
It's always a pleasure, Jacob. Thank you. This is a very important topic and one that has been a mystery for 2,000 years, honestly. And people are struggling to make sense of this text. And unfortunately, I think virtually all previous interpretations have been mistaken. And Hillman's position is actually the most reprehensible and easiest to dismantle. So I hope your viewers enjoy this discussion because it really is important, and it's actually kind of fun.
And before I start playing the clips, the first thing I'd like to do is I want you to tell the audience about what exactly is secret Mark before we continue.
The Morton Smith claims to have discovered a fragment from Clement of Alexandria that refers to a secret Gospel of Mark that has certain additions. And these additions are related to the naked young man in Mark 14. And there are some very clever and interesting associations that Smith makes. But there are three possibilities for the genesis of these fragments attributed to Clement. One is that Clement actually wrote them. Another is that somebody wrote it in Clement's name in the history of the tradition, but earlier than Morton Smith. The other possibility is that it's a forgery by Morton Smith, and that's my position, and I'll try to defend it later on. The issue is about that Smith's fragments claim that in Alexandria there was a secret rite, a secret baptism that is evoked in this original, for him, an original Gospel of Mark that was purged by the Orthodox, and that the secret Gospel of Mark represents an earlier version of it before it was purged by the Orthodox. I think it's far more likely that Smith manufactured it. What it is possible that somebody manufactured it earlier than he did. It's conceivable, but I hope to show that it cannot possibly be the original version of the Gospel of Mark. Not at all. Now, and that does not come out of any squeamishness that I have about homosexuality or any theological agenda on my part. It is a literary observation purely. And I think that Smith and others have failed to take sensitively the literary composition of the Gospel of Mark, which is really quite brilliant. And as we will see, I trust that it's quite meaningful, but not meaningful in the way that Smith anticipated. By the way, I knew Morton Smith. Actually, I gave a lecture in front of him in which after the lecture, he read the riot act at me because I mentioned my theory on the secret Gospel of Mark. And unfortunately, he died 2 weeks later. One of his students thinks that I killed him. I certainly didn't, but he really did lose his cool. And I think I really touched a very sensitive nerve for him. Now, that doesn't prove that he was responsible for the creation of the secret Gospel of Mark, but it does indicate that he had a personal investment in it, either as its discoverer or as its creator.
All right, so we're going to take a look at this video.
Okay.
Let's see. He's pulling up the text here from Pseudo Clement. Let me give me a second. I'm trying to get to it. Is that 13 minutes in?
Jesus was there in the cemetery and Jesus resurrected him. I've heard that theory, but the text doesn't say that. We're just adding.
I want to jump. Okay, I didn't want to do this originally, but the last slide, there. Hey, guys, I want to cut to the chase on this one. Look at this. This is, I don't want to talk about the background of this thing whatsoever.
Do you notice that Hillman says right here, I don't want to talk about the background of this thing whatsoever?
Yes, I did.
I wanted to pause right there before we kept going. So he's going to say this is Pseudo Clement, but this is secret Mark from Pseudo Clement. Everybody understands this.
People classify it as Pseudo Clement. You can take that and do with it what you want. I'm interested in the language here and what the Greek is saying. So So hoide mathetai epitimestai aute kai orgistes ho Jesus. Jesus is mad, man, right off the bat. And he came back with her, this woman, to the garden. Where was the Nemeon? Where was the cemetery? Yeah. And right away he heard from the cemetery, right from this tomb, phone megale, a great voice, and approaching. Yeah, Jesus moved off the stone from the doorway of the tomb, and entering in there, right there, was this Neaniskos. You can see this on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down. Neaniskos. See the Neaniskos?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and there was a Neaniskos there, and what is he doing? He's stretching out his hand and waking him up. Isn't that cool? He's waking him. Wait, do you realize that we heard a voice and we entered a tomb where a kid has to be roused? Where he has to be roused. Okay.
What?
I'll stop it right there. So he says it's Pseudo Clement, and it is called Pseudo Clement, yes, but he's talking about the secret Gospel of Mark, which is being the text, because the text is claiming to be written by Clement of Alexandria, who is allegedly quoting the secret Gospel of Mark. Just so everybody's on the same page here. So Dennis, what do you have to say about that clip?
Well, unfortunately, the text that was presented is not the text he's talking about. So I would have to run through it again and to see, because we're talking about a number of texts. One is the text in Mark itself, Mark 14. Another is the text in Mark 16, and the other is Pseudo Clement, or the secret Gospel of Mark, if you will. So I don't know that I have anything to say quite yet, because I was confused by the argument he's making. But I think you put your finger on a very important point. He's not interested in the literary origins of the text. He's interested in the text so he can play with it. And he certainly is stretching the evidence. Let me, though, make a couple of extra comments. There are two Neaniskoi in the Gospel of Mark. Let's stay with Mark for now. One is the young man who is in Gethsemane, who flees Gumnas, who flees naked, having left behind him the sindon, the shroud, if you will, or the linen cloth that he had been wearing, peribeblemenon. And there's another neoniskos at the end. Both of these young men are not named. At the end of the Gospel of Mark, there's another neoniskos, same word, that is in the tomb. And now he is wearing a white robe. That is, he's peribeblemenos with the sindon. With a white robe. So this is the same character. In the one case, he's fled naked. In the other case, he's wearing something. Now, scholars have correctly noted that this young man at the arrest scene is a counter hero, whereas Jesus is going to his death. The young man, like the other disciples, flees in fear. But then he reappears wearing a white robe at the end. One of the major interpretations of baptism among Christians, and by the way, as I said, other scholars have noted this. A male baptismal candidate arrives and wears a shattered, a soiled or an animal skin to represent the body, and is baptized nude, and then comes out of the waters and is wearing a white robe. And one of the major interpretations of Jesus' baptism already in Paul is that it's dying and rising with Christ. So that this character is representing a baptismal initiate who has now symbolically died and risen with Jesus and is announcing the resurrection. Now that's a very compelling relationship, and it has nothing to do with sexuality. It has to do with death. But there's even a more compelling interpretation of it. And maybe this is jumping ahead too much, Jacob, but there's a character in the Odyssey who is very well known and imitated in Greek literature that is informing Mark here. And he expects his readers to see it. Virgil certainly saw it. Virgil has two imitations of it. Luke probably saw it because he has his own imitation of this Elpenor character. And so Hillman is simply tone deaf to the baptismal issues that are related to this story. He's tone deaf to the Homeric backgrounds to it. He's tone deaf to the symmetry between these two characters. Now, Smith is right, and I guess Hillman would be too, although I haven't spent a lot of time with his work, to see this young man as an initiate of a Christian rite. I think that's correct. But I don't think he's got a clue about what the symbolism would have been for early Christians.
All right. Now I'm going to play this.
Their vocab is. How good do you think their translation skills are?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's the problem. So those translations are generally pretty bad, and that's what I brought some examples of.
Okay.
And this is in the garden, actually, that I brought these slides for.
Okay.
And this is the Garden of Gethsemane. And where are we? We're with Jesus in the first. And he's being arrested.
Okay, so let's give some context.
Yeah.
Let's give some context to this. So who was Jesus, and why, and what is so good? What is so great about him?
Yeah, Jesus is a guy who walked around with 12 children, and
all the time,
and prophets, and a group of prophets. No, I'm just telling you what the text say.
He was just a guy who walked around with prophets.
Prostitutes and children.
So what was so great about
He
him?
called his disciples and he calls them his children constantly, right? Remember, God.
So he's a pimp.
God blesses those who take care of the children, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
He takes care of these children.
He takes care of these children.
Okay.
There is a female underage called the Paidiska. When Jesus Christ is in his trial, his followers won't admit they're his followers, right? It's the whole, you're going to deny me, right? Jesus is all like, I'm going to get friggin' scandalized, right? And you're going to deny me. When he's in the garden and he gets caught.
Mm-hmm.
And those three, Peter, James, and John, they're keeping watch, the text says. They're guarding at a distance. While Jesus takes the naked boy that's been assigned to him, that's what the text says, like a slave.
So the depiction of this event is only in one version of the Bible. Is that right? Is it Matthew?
No, it's in multiple, but the kid is only in Mark.
Only in Mark.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's only like
Yeah.
2 sentences,
And-
right? Stephen, can you pull up the passage?
I've got it here.
Oh, you've got it there. Okay.
Yeah. 1451. Is that first line?
I can pull up the passages and show the different versions.
Yeah,
and
let's
how
do
it
that.
translates as well. What passage is it?
Mark 1451.
1451. All right, cool.
Okay, a young man. What is it? Can you blow it up?
Yeah.
A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus when they seized him. That's all it says.
Yeah. Now look at the Greek.
Oh yeah.
And it says, a young boy was assigned to him, having wrapped his with a medicated bandage, and they arrested him.
A medicated bandage is what it says.
Sindon, yeah. I've got the...
Okay, so I'm comparing
I've got
yours to what this one says. So visibility, I can turn on Greek as well.
Okay.
I would love to see how the this online Bible matches yours.
Check out the...
Is okay, so right here, is that exactly what you're reading?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading.
Okay, which one of those Greek words is wrapped in a medicated linen?
Epigumnu. This is on the... Okay, let's just start on the first line.
Maybe should we go to his computer, Steve?
Yeah, I'm punching it up.
That's it.
Okay.
Let's go to the first one. The second word in is neoniskos, and that is what we call a diminutive. So it's a little of something else. And what is a neonias? A neonias is a boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
can
this
we
is a
stop
little
there,
boy.
Okay.
Jacob?
And they...
Okay,
Go ahead, Dennis.
I want you to go back to the clip later, but I'm gonna exegete it as we go along. A neoniskos is not a young boy. A neoniskos is a young man of military age. And if you wanted to have a boy, you have plenty of other Greek words to use. A neoniskos is a warrior-aged young man. Now, let's get that right. And also, it's the same word that is used for the young man in the tomb. Is he claiming that there's a young boy in the tomb? He must be, but he's exactly wrong about that. He's also wrong about a syndone. The syndone is also the word that is used for Joseph wrapping Jesus' corpse. Now, that's not going to, you don't need to have a medicated shroud around him. There is no evidence, as I understand it, for claiming syndone is a medicated garment unless you have an adjective that says so. This is just an abomination. Also, the word he makes the word sunakolephein to mean that he's been assigned to Jesus. That's bullshit. The beginning, sorry for the language, but I feel very strongly about this.
Oh no, it's fine.
It's the disciples who decided in Mark to follow Jesus. It's what disciples do. And the reason that Mark has that in is that this boy is a disciple as well, but he's an unnamed disciple. He's not been assigned a boy to Jesus to care for. Now, the other issue about Jesus caring for children, I care for children. What does that mean? It means that somebody's compassionate and understands the marginalized in society. This idea of making the child then exploited by Jesus in some way is a total abomination to the text. And this fellow has no right to claim that he's an expert in Greek and make those claims. I'm sorry, Jacob, but it really infuriates me. You can run more of the clip if you want to.
Yeah. No, I thought what you said was brilliant. So I'll keep playing.
Called Paidiska female prostitutes who were underage.
Okay.
And when I say underage, I don't mean
Did they define
under
underage
18.
down back then?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not under 18. It's before.
So okay.
Right.
So that was their word for before.
Age was. They didn't set a year.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Right.
The translation here says young.
And was there was there any sort of moral boundaries when it came to sex or prostitution based on pre?
Not from what I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, generally, in different civilizations, you can still, like in Athens, you can still prosecute for somebody coercing what you and I would say is underage, them before puberty. Yeah, that's still, you can get in trouble for that.
Okay.
But it's not like it's not like there's compensation involved because, it's not like a crime like you and I consider a crime. It's more like a civil crime. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like being punched.
Right.
Yeah, you've damaged somebody so you can give them reparation.
So I'm going to skip to what he says about, I think it's in around 2 hours 45, where he talks about the lay stays. Okay, right here.
Basically a trafficker. Yeah.
Which was looked down upon.
Let me go back a little bit.
Accurate to the sources. I'm not saying to anybody's interpretation. There's no room for interpretation here. It's just what are the sources saying? He's a lay stays,
Which is a pimp.
which is basically a trafficker. Yeah.
Which was looked down upon, which was frowned upon back then.
Because it's an active, organized crime.
But a civil crime.
Yeah, I wonder
You've got Boys of Galilee, and those boys of
Go ahead.
I would love to know the contextual information he has for making lay stays a pimp. The point is that he's considered a robber of some kind, probably a revolutionary, and Jesus is now being accused of being a revolutionary, along with the listis, that is, he mispronounced, by the way, the listis that he's crucified with. So are the others also pimps that are being crucified? He has brought into the text his own agenda, his own social agenda. And by the way, he is correct that the Greeks allowed male homosexuality. They were more skeptical of female homosexuality, but they did make a distinction between what we would consider pederasty, but they didn't always. Those who criticized pederasty did so because it was an asymmetrical relationship in terms of in sexual enjoyment. But he's just smoking dope, Jacob. And I don't know where he gets this stuff, but it certainly is a violation of the text. So when he says, let's go back to the text and get it right, I would say that of him. Go back to the text, Dink, and get it right.
Galilee. They're entrenched in the.
But didn't you say that when the people approached Jesus in the park, you called them cops? They were like ancient
Roman
cops. Did they have chest cams?
No, but they had big weapons. He notes it, and I have that.
And he said, and according to Matthew, the first thing he said is, "I am not a lay-stace or a trafficker."
Right. He said, "I'm not a lay-stace, man." He says, "Why did you come out here? Why did you come out here with all your heavy weapons like I'm a lay-stace?"
Right.
Right. Right. So,
well, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was just trying to get the antidote.
Well, it could be, but he's making a big deal about it, right?
Right.
For some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing there contextually right next to a kid. So, maybe he's trying to give an answer for why there's a kid with him in a public park for him. That
if I'm his lawyer, that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yes. No, more importantly, what's that kid actually doing? And I think that's the question.
What do you think?
The evidence only shows that he could be one of these boy dudes who's providing the people who are in the cult with the.
So I'm going to go back a bit where he's going to bring in Julius Caesar into this discussion, but it happens earlier. Let me see. We'll start right here.
It says specifically that Jesus was naked with his paideia, with his boys. And he's always calling them boys. He calls them my little ones. I've got some verses here where he calls them my little ones. Mm-hmm. Right? So what is he doing? He's perpetuating a cult that is a practical business, is if it's illegitimate because it's prosecuted by the government. And Julius Caesar was one of the people who started cracking the back of it because they kidnapped him. They were going to sell him off. And he got a ransom and came back and killed them all.
Wow.
Crucified them. Woo!
So I'm surprised it took the snake venom so long to kill him.
Yeah.
That was... So it was more than 24 hours from when he was crucified, from when he was found in the park?
No, he would have gotten it. So he went to the party with the boys at night. So that's when they would have done the administration of the flesh and the blood.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was the next day he was crucified.
Remember the Ophites still fillate.
So the reason I played that part is because I wanted to show everybody that he's using Julius Caesar as an example to support his interpretation of leastis, and also that Jesus was crucified because he was a trafficker, just so everybody understands. Dennis, do you have any comments so far?
Nothing more than I have said before. I do have more to say, especially about the story in Homer, but no, I just think he's bringing to the text his agenda. And by the way, the issue of pace and paideia and so on, paideia can also be, or paidion, these can be terms of endearment, and a pes is simply a child. And the point is that even Dionysus is a pais of Zeus. That just means he's a son of Zeus. So it is a term that is related to a parental origin, or your parents. So to assume that it means that these are the sexual objects is really bringing a modern agenda to a text that would the authors would just scream foul play.
All right, we're going to take a look at the second video that this will be the last one we look at for today. Let me see. I'm going to pull it up. Just give me a second.
By the way, I saw a chat from a very fine amateur classicist, Stephen Nelson, and he's done a magnificent job of going back through Hillman's Greek and showing how really dismal it is, in that he's making these arguments. And he's also shown that others have claimed, well, his Greek is so fantastic. Well, his Greek is good, but it's not very accurate. And he brings so much agenda to it that he really pollutes the discussion.
Okay, almost ready. Just trying to. I thought I had the file on. I thought I had the video file. Apparently not. Oh, I do have it. Okay. Just took me a second. In this video, he tries to elaborate on the young man even further.
Following guest is one of the world's leading.
To stay with the text. And it doesn't matter whether Jesus was real or not. If the texts are saying that Jesus was arrested in a public park with a naked kid and screaming, "I am not a child trafficker," right? I am not a child. Linguistically, he can go there. And I think he should. And he doesn't have to say whether. If he wants to believe Jesus is fake or real is irrelevant, right? He knows that. He's a philologist. He knows that. So I challenge you, my great master and Lord, Carl Ruck, please say something about Jesus and the naked boy and the drugs that they're using. Please say something about a Christ. Tell us, you know Euripides. You know it's a sex drug.
Another thing people like to say is that he wasn't a boy. He was a young man.
Yeah, a young man.
But I don't see the big deal. I don't see the big difference there.
The difference is the diminutive. It's not a neanias. A young man is a neanias.
Okay.
A neaniskos, that iskos suffix, is a diminutive. It means
meaning he's owned.
You take the thing and you make it smaller. You make it younger. My little paidiska.
Little man.
My little paidiska is your little girl.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. What where should we take the time machine next?
Yeah.
Also, Steve, do you want to turn the lights on, or
Dennis, did you want to respond to that?
Well, I've responded to it before. Homer talks about neania. It also is a diminutive, but the characters almost always are soldiers. So he's got the whole thing wrong. The Greeks are very careful about the adjectives that they use for ages, especially for men. And it goes from being an infant to being a child to being a teenager, if you will, to being of military age. That's where you have the neania and the neaniskas. They're diminutives, but they're used for soldiers. And take a look at all of this. Then you have words for people who are older and for the aged. Now, he should know that. Scholars in classics know that when you have these terms that are used for men as adjectives, that they designate an age. And the age is of The Neoniskos is of military age. I'm sorry. And that can be verified over and over again. And he's really playing loose with the language here.
We're going to go back to we're actually going to go back to the first video and play 2 more segments of it. Then we'll be done. Let me see. Where it is. He seems to make a slight reference to secret mark in this video. He doesn't say secret mark, but he talks about secret things. So I'll show that part. But after that, I'm going to play the part where he claims to know what the word Christ really means. And I'd like to get you to respond against that nonsense, Dennis. Let me see. All right, is that 2 hours and 41 minutes?
I don't.
He's got something on board that's causing him to stumble.
And it's 4 a.m. in the morning?
It's 4 a.m. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's got and who
he just came from
who wrote this, by the way?
Party with the kids. He just came from
Did one of the cops write this? One of the cops that arrested him?
No, this is Mark. Yeah.
Mark was there.
Well, no, Mark is telling you the secret things that you're not supposed to know.
So how does Mark know if he wasn't there?
Yeah, well, I don't care if he does or doesn't know. The fact is he's saying them.
Stop it right there. Now I'm going to play the part where he talks about the drugs. He connects Christ to drugs.
Okay, first of all, the band that arrests Jesus is a lynch mob created by Judas in order to get a payoff from the high priest. He's treacherous, like Melanthius in the Odyssey, who betrays his master Odysseus. So this is not a legal arrest by policemen. Thank you very much. It's a lynch mob.
I think I got it. We'll start here.
Aeschylus fighting about who's the better poet in hell, if you will.
In hell?
Yeah, it's not really hell. They didn't really have a concept of hell. It was the other side of the dark star.
The other side of the dark star.
Yeah, which is apparently, it's apparently the place from which they would.
Gotta skip a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first depiction of Christ was a man being crucified with a donkey head.
Correct.
And so who was Jesus Christ?
Yeah, Christ is a title.
Christ is a title.
Yeah. Christ is a title, yeah, and it's a pharmaceutical term.
Christ is a pharmaceutical term.
Where you put,
in Greek.
Yeah, yes, and it means I have several examples of it to show you, but it means you can perform an incrustation, they called it, where I give you a drug. What you'll see me do is I'll spit on the ground. Yeah, I'll spit on the ground and I'll use a combination of earth and spittle. My own spittle. Why am I spitting? Did you know Jesus walked out and spit in people's faces?
I thought you said Christ was just he was an actual person?
In the text. Who is he in the text?
Who is he? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's most important.
Okay.
And that text is going to show us history, right? You can say what you want about the text as long as we're translating it accurately. So what is the text? Because the text is our evidence. This is.
So now I'm going to go to 16 minutes in. This is where he gets a little bit more.
I hope this is the last one.
This is. But this is about the same thing he was just talking about, the Christ.
You see what happens?
Are you sure you're not the Antichrist?
There's just a rain cloud that follows him around everywhere.
Yeah. What is the Christ?
What is the Antichrist?
What is the Christ? If you have to know the Antichrist, you have to know the Christ.
Right.
It's a Greek word.
For
applying a drug to your eyes so that they may be open.
That's what the Christ means in Greek.
Yes, it's from the verb chrio, to be stung by the gadfly.
Huh.
Who's the gadfly?
Who is the gadfly?
Yeah, I don't know. Socrates said he was. It's a thing they had going on. Remember, they have orgies and stuff like that, so you better buckle up, right?
But what does that have to do with the gadfly? I mean, you think...
No, oestrus, to be stung.
Oh.
It's a state of mania. They call it in Greek, oestromania.
Okay.
To be in an altered state.
Right.
I'll stop it there. All right, Dennis, do you have anything you want to respond here to?
To the word Christ was used in Greek for the Messiah. The word does not appear in Christian texts, earliest in Mark. It's already in Paul. In Paul's letters, it's already a traditional designation. It has to do with the anointing of someone who is perceived to be an emissary of the Jewish God. And there were hopes that there would be various kinds of savior figures for Judaism during times of difficulty. And the idea of saying that this has to do with applying a medicine to someone's eyes is so outrageous that I asked you not to show another video. This is so absolutely unacceptable. And I don't know where he's getting it, and I don't know why the person who's having this broadcast isn't challenging him, isn't doing fact checking. Why not have a scholar like myself or other even more capable classicists dismantling the argument? It's just a sham. And it's one of the things that bothers me so much about YouTube podcasts, when they are undisciplined, when they use people who are sensationalists, and they're trying to draw attention to alternatives and being anti-Christian. I'm an atheist, but I'm not anti-Christian. I just don't want Christians to be so stupid about their origins, and to be more sophisticated about why these texts are saying what they do. Now, we still haven't gotten to Elpenor in the Odyssey, and I insist that we talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that, because I'm not playing any more clips.
In the Odyssey, Odysseus is at Circe's home, and he finds out that he needs to go to Hades to consult with the blind seer Tiresias on how to get home. So he wakes his sleeping crew, who have been feasting at Circe's house, and there's a young man, a Neania, who falls off the roof in the morning, still drunk, and he snaps his neck. His psyche goes to Hades, where Odysseus meets him, and Elpenor says, and he's called unfortunate Elpenor, he says, you need to go back to Circe's house and bury my body, otherwise I'll never have the blessed location of the dead in Hades itself. And so Odysseus goes back to Circe's house, buries Elpenor at dawn among much weeping. Virgil imitates this story two times dramatically. One about Palinurus, who falls off his ship because of sleep, the god sleep, and a young man named Misenus, and his body is buried with great sorrow as well. Mark is playing a very clever game by having the Elpenor character as the naked young man, the Dionysios, being an anti-hero, but giving word of a resurrection instead of a sad burial at dawn. He's glorified because he's wearing this white robe. And Luke has a variation of it in the raising of Goodacre, who falls down and dies while Paul is sleeping, while Paul is preaching for too long. His soul, though, his psyche stays in him. And at dawn, he's raised back to life amid all the joy of those who are in Troas. And by the way, Troas is identified with ancient Troy. So this is a trope that was very well known in antiquity and imitated by Luke, by Virgil. I think there's an allusion to it also in Roman poetry. And it's a trope that Hillman has no idea about. Neither did Morton Smith. And it shows that these people are tone deaf to the influence of Homeric stories. And Mark, writing for his smart money, expected his readers to see that in his founding myth, you have a story of a young man who rises, who gives witness to the resurrection, and promises such a resurrection then for Jesus's followers because of the baptismal imagery that's used. So I would be very interested in knowing if some of your viewers have questions about that, so that I can fill in the gaps if I missed anything.
So far, I don't think we have any questions from the chat, at least not that I can see.
Okay.
But I think we'll go ahead and close. Do you have any final thoughts about Hillman before I play the outro?
Only what I said before, Jacob, and let me reinstate it. One of the curses of YouTube is sensationalism, and having people who are claim to be authorities and who really are not, who come with different agendas, and are interested in thrilling the audience and so on. What we need is really rock-ribbed classical scholars dealing with these texts and making sense of them. I would say that I have another book that is the last one I'm sure that I'll write. It's called Feuding Gospel Authors. I expect it to be out before the summer of 2025, in which I discuss these kinds of things over and over again, and spend quite a bit of time having Mark describe why he has this naked young man at the arrest who reappears at the tomb, and why Luke imitates the story in his story of Goodacre. So because I'm self-publishing, I have trouble with marketing. It's going to be with Amazon, and it will not be very expensive. So I trust that people who wish to pursue these kinds of questions will keep their eyes open in the next few months for a new publication on it.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Dennis MacDonald.
Thank you, Jacob.
Hello viewers, thanks for watching this video from the History Valley YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if any of you wish to further support this channel, please consider checking out this channel's Patreon page and becoming a patron, and or donate through PayPal or through Super Chat during your live stream. Thank you.